Hello. Thanks for tuning in to watch this. If you are tuning in, gonna go through all of my normal rigmarole to let the audience build, let notifications go out. So yeah, it is. One, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a viewer. Thanks for being a channel member. If you are a channel member, if you're not a channel member, you need to go down there to the join button down below and need to hit that join button, and you can pick a level of support as a channel member. Every little bit helps. If you are a channel member, thanks so much. Always looking for more show producer levels. Loyal act localist. Big shout out to IMAV from Subscribe Star, who is a show producer level from Subscribe Star. Shout out to the Angry Vet, who has done a massive amount of work for the channel. Very thankful for all the channel members. Very thankful for all the subscribers. Thankful for the subscribers that are hate watchers. And in light of today being March 27th of 2025, I'm also very thankful for all of the people who are, the monitors who are still out there from all the different three-letter government agencies that have, from time to time, viewed my content. And all the different law enforcement agencies, to include Albert Lea Police Department, former Albert Lea City Attorney Kelly Don Martinez. Big shout out to the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, who has spent a massive amount of time watching my content, and I know that for a fact, as well as the FBI, who received a call about monitoring me. So thanks for that. Very thankful for that. And all that's very important. People like Police Chief J.D. Carlson from Albert Lea, people like Sheriff Kevin Torgerson from the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office. You folks have made it possible for me to be able to talk about today freely. I need people to understand that today is the 5-year anniversary of the state of Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz, starting the lockdowns for that what we now on the channel euphemistically refer to as the COOF pandemic of 2020 and into 2021 and 2022. They really kept that thing going, right? And now they're working on that winged animal with feathers illness they're trying to scare people with. But yeah, it was 5 years ago today that Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, sent the state into lockdown and into a death spiral. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about that. So thanks for being here. The interesting thing too, by the way, while we're at it, since I said it's 5 years of tyranny, some of you still haven't learned your lesson. On Monday, the 31st of March, to show that tyranny never dies in the state of Minnesota, the now former Minnesota State Patrol trooper Shane Roper is set to start trial for the negligent murder of Olivia Flores. And the courts have done their level best to try and protect him through all of that. And yeah, but he's set to start trial, even though he's doing everything he can in his power to try. Well, hey, Nikki, thanks for being here. Thank you, everybody else, for being here. But yeah, the courts are doing their level best to try and get Roper out of that. I believe they're going to probably come up with some really cushy plea deal for him to take at the last minute before the trial actually starts. It's very clear they don't want to put him in prison because they have done everything they can to keep him out of lockup. Yes, everybody hit the like. Please comment away. That's what a drive time dialectic is all about. So I want everybody to, not me, I'm not going to do this, but I want you guys to close your eyes and just listen and think about where you were 5 years ago in March. And for many of you, today kind of marks that same anniversary of your state going into some form of lockdown. There is not a single state outside of the state of South Dakota that didn't go into lockdown for a short period of time. Governor Kristi Noem, who I don't have a lot of respect for anymore. She's shown herself to be a complete sellout to tyranny. Governor Kristi Noem kept the state of South Dakota free and open for the entire year of 2020 and would not issue statewide mandates for masking or lockdowns, and left it up to the cities, the individual counties and communities and neighbors. Oh, hey Chris, good to see you. Thanks for being here. But yeah, I want you to close your eyes and think about where you were at the beginning of March and then in March 7th as our country began to spiral out of control. And when I mean out of control, I mean out of our control. And as you watched people that you considered to be solid, patriotic individuals that you thought would never fall for tyranny, what were your thoughts in late March of 2020 as the entire country lost its mind? The United States lost its ever-loving mind. People who swear that they are small government, anti-statist, liberty-loving people, many of them, rabid Trump voters, to this day will make dozens of excuses for every bad decision Donald Trump made in 2020 throughout his entire first administration, who are still to this day excusing all of what he did in his entire first administration, and now even making excuses for all the bad decisions that he's making now. These people have proven to be authoritarian shills. They love authoritarianism. And many of them are people who I call friends, or did call friends. Many of them won't talk to me anymore. Because I have shifted, not my focus, but in their eyes, shifted to critiquing people that they consider to be heroes. One person recently said to me, I know your name, but I don't think you're the same person that you were when I first met you. And this person was making a reference to my partnership with Lisa Hansen, who was the owner and operator of the Interchange Coffee and Wine Bistro in Albert Lea, Minnesota, as she decided in late 2020 to keep her business open in defiance of Governor Walz. And I came alongside her and partnered with her and her husband Vern, may he rest in peace. Vern died just now almost 2 months ago from a sudden onset heart attack. No, it had nothing to do with the jab. Vern never received it. But there are a lot of people who who at the time were rabidly for Trump, who are still rabidly for Trump, and now because I'm not, I'm critiquing Trump as I did then, but most of my focus then was on critiquing, rightly so, the governors and the mayors and the county commissioners and city councils and whatnot who went along with shutting down their cities, shutting down their states, taking people's businesses from them, and taking their livelihoods and their freedom of association. There's so many things that happened in 2020 that were purely violations of the Constitution that a lot of people just absolutely went along with because they believe that emergencies trump your natural rights. And what did Nikki say? It might have to be that they do not want to have their eyes open and are actually frightened by the fact that you have not changed it. No, I think that's a very fair assessment, Nikki, that because they didn't take time to really get to know me, and they assumed that I was a normie con, just like them, even though I spent a lot of time back then critiquing normie cons, and there is a difference between normie cons and neocons. This is not a neocon bashing or even a normie con bashing video. It's just me kind of speaking about my thoughts over the last 5 years. Now, we're going to be doing a special show on April 25th, whatever day that falls on. We're going to be doing a special show for that day to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of the launch of the podcast, of the show, of the channel, because that's the day that I had finally said, I am going to go out, even if it means risking my career, and I am going to speak publicly, show up publicly at protests. And I was impressed. I met a lot of people. Raul is a good example. Some of you have heard me mention him before, but I met a lot of people who were like me, were calling out both sides of the aisle, calling out the Republicans, calling out the Democrats, calling out, governors and mayors and whatnot, who decided we were going to have protests. And so one of the first things that I did with the very first thing I did with the channel was I launched it on the early morning of April 25th and drove 2 hours to the Twin Cities to take part in a protest outside of the residence that the wage slave taxpayers of the state of Minnesota provide for our governor to live in opulence. I mean, the guy lives in a mansion. Our governor lives in literally a mansion in a very nice part of the city of St. Paul, Minnesota. And so April 25th for me as the official launch of the show, of the podcast, was rooted and had its seed in the days leading up to March 27th, as I was warning people everything that was coming. And in it, I did. If you could find an honest former deputy, co-worker of mine, who would be willing to actually talk to you, because now a lot of them are going to the nth degree to distance themselves from me. A lot of them that were up until the last year were still talking to me have completely ghosted me now, which is fine. We call a lot of people friends who are never our friends, right? Former co-workers, acquaintances, pains in our asses, things like that. But if you could find them, they were, I was warning them And all throughout the end of February and into March, I was telling people, look, this is not going to end well. Here's what Minnesota is going to do. Here's what California is going to do. Here's what New York is going to do. Here's what the United States is going to do. And Donald Trump paved the way for that. Donald Trump paved the way for 2020. And I know there are a lot of people who don't like to hear that. They don't like to deal with it. They don't want to address it. But yeah, it's true. Donald Trump made it possible for every state that shut down to shut down, because he issued a countrywide executive. Hey, thanks for tuning in from Turkey, Chaos. I'm very, very thankful to have somebody from Turkey here. I've got a very good friend whose wife is Turkish national. But Donald Trump, in declaring that emergency, made it possible for all of the other governors, or for all the governors that did it, to shut their states down. And that includes Ron DeSantis. Everybody thinks that, DeSantis is this anti-authoritarian, anti-lockdown guy. He shut his state down. Now, it only took him a couple of weeks to turn around and rescind those orders. But Donald Trump threatened Ron DeSantis with federal law enforcement action if he opened his state up. Let that sink in. And he's never apologized for it, ever. But, Florida was one of the most egregious states. They, the Broward County Sheriff bragged about arresting Harry Brown. He's a pastor in Broward County. They bragged. They absolutely bragged about arresting a pastor for holding church services. There were dozens of cases of church services being shut down, of parishioners being ticketed for going to church services, even in parking lots. You had law enforcement arresting people in public parks, mothers for taking their kids in Idaho to play in a public park. Paddleboarders in California were being arrested by law enforcement for paddleboarding in the ocean by themselves because the beach was closed. The beach was closed. All beaches, public and private, were ordered closed by Gavin Newsom. And you would get arrested for going. My friend Lisa Hansen, charged with numerous crimes for keeping her business open. She was thrown in prison for it. Spent 90 days in prison for keeping her business open, because when she went to trial in 2021, the end of 2021, December of 2021, she went to trial, and they wouldn't let her bring up the Constitution in her defense, and they won't hear an appeal on it. Now, the damage is done, but I want people to think about this. Like, are your eyes really open? And if they are really open, what are you doing about what you've seen over the last 5 years? If you're sitting back on your haunches, thinking, "Oh my gosh, we can say what we want, but we're safe because Donald Trump is president," our liberties have been restored. We've got free speech on the internet again. Is that true? Not just in your state, but as a country, are your liberties truly restored? Or is Donald Trump proving to be a case of meet the new boss, same as the old boss? Because I would tell you that Donald Trump, while he is marginally better than Joe Biden, is another example of authoritarianism. In his first administration, he signed an executive order making making anti-Semitic speech illegal, declaring anti-Semitism and any speech that's perceived to be anti-Semitic, he declared it illegal. Now, I don't believe in, being anti-Semitic. I don't believe in being anti-African American, anti-black. I don't believe in being anti-Italian. I don't believe in being anti-German. But I do believe and will defend to the death your right to say whatever you want to say, no matter how hateful it is, short of actually advocating for violence against actual people. But Donald Trump, there again, everybody's paragon of liberty and freedom, recently has said that he wants Americans charged with crimes for anti-Semitic speech and taking part in unlawful protests without ever defining what an unlawful protest is. And everybody says, well, we all know what unlawful protests are. Do we? Do we know what an unlawful protest is? Because we didn't get a definition of that executive order that just came out here a couple of weeks ago from Donald Trump. We did not get a definition of that. Donald Trump never issued a definition of what an unlawful protest is, an illegal protest. Is that your paragon of liberty? Is that your paragon of virtue? Is that your, as Chris said, free speech? I mean, is it? Is that really, are your eyes opened, and do you recognize that no matter who you support, if you're supporting anybody from the duopoly, if you're supporting anybody from the Republican Party or the Democrat Party who actually has the ability to get themselves elected, are they really supportive of your natural right to the freedom of expression, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of self-defense against a tyrannical government? I mean, does that exist in your world? No matter who's president, but especially if you're a Trump supporter. Does our president today, did we learn anything from 2020 and 2021 and 2022 and 2023 and 2024? Have you learned anything? Is anything changed for you? Because your president and his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, support red flag laws. They're rabidly in support of red flag laws. And it's not bad enough that Donald Trump in his first administration said, take their guns first, worry about due process later. He doubled down in picking an attorney general who is in support of nationwide, and I hate using it because we're not a nation, we're a republic. The United States can never be a nation, by the way. There's no such thing as an ethnic American. Donald Trump, in his first administration, did indeed say, take their guns first, worry about due process later, and then picks for his second administration, Pam Bondi, who wants red flag laws across the United States at the federal level. She wants federal level red flag laws in place. And she wants to use the power of the federal state to push other states, to push the states and local municipalities to have red flag laws. Does that sound like a person who's in favor of your natural right to keep and bear arms? Does that sound like a person who is in support of your natural right to be free from unlawful searches and seizures? Does that sound like a person who's in support of your natural right to be free from warrantless arrests? To be innocent until proven guilty? Donald Trump has misused the Alien Enemies Act. Exactly, Chris. Control over the people. It's subjective and bullshit. Absolutely. Donald Trump has arbitrarily declared cartels international terrorist organizations and then wrongfully applied the Alien Enemies Act from 1798, I'm probably getting that wrong, but use the Alien Enemies Act in an unlawful, unconstitutional way to target people who are here, both legally and illegally. Khalil Mohammed was targeted under the Aliens Act for his speech against geopolitical Zionist Israel. Broke no laws, was not accused of breaking any laws. Yes, he was here on a green card, but he's here legally. Maybe you're a Zionist, but does that make what they did to Khalil Mohammed for speaking out and organizing protests against geopolitical Zionist Israel on Columbia University campus? He didn't order people to he didn't make anybody block somebody from the building. He didn't, take part in any violence. He didn't take part in any destructive behavior, because if he had, they would have charged him, but he didn't. But because he spoke out against AIPAC, he spoke out against geopolitical Zionist Israel, Donald Trump used the Alien Enemies Act to have him arrested and hauled away, despite the fact that he's got a green card, despite the fact that he's married to an American woman, despite the fact that they're having a child together, despite the fact that he is lawfully enrolled in a university, a private university for that matter. Is that the paragon of American liberties? Is that the paragon of American virtues that you're talking about? Have you learned anything in the last 5 years? Look, all of you who watch me on a regular basis, who know that I am a paleo-libertarian, paleo-conservative. I am not a member of the Libertarian Party at the national level. I am a member of the Minnesota Libertarian Party. I am Misesian, Ludwig von Mises. I am Misesian in my perspective. I identify very closely with the Mises caucus. But I'm not going to tell you that you can trust libertarian politicians absolutely and without any questions. That with no fears and no doubts. I'm not going to tell you that. That would be asinine for me to say, yeah, you can do that. You can go ahead and trust them no matter what. No, you can't. I have a massive amount of respect for Thomas Massey. And if you don't have a massive amount of respect for Thomas Massey, I don't know if there's any hope for you. But does that mean I'm going to trust Thomas Massey blindly? No. I've got a young man who's a friend of mine who recently ran for mayor in the city of Spring Valley, where I live. And if you guys saw, most of you saw the election night debacle that took place, where they tried to bar me from voting for using my phone and recording my voting experience, which I'm perfectly allowed to do under the First Amendment. You have seen the video where I put it out, the audio to a video set where they tried to trump up reasons to have me arrested, tried to trump up reasons to make me vote in my car. It's absolutely, imperative for people to understand that we have not shaken off the chains of the tyranny over the last 5 years. We have, for the most part, as a country, we have settled back into our new normal, or settled down into our new normal. I haven't. Many of you watching haven't, but many of you know and understand that our new normal is exactly what they were aiming for under the COOF pandemic. You guys know that. I don't have to tell you that. Even though I'm telling you that. There's a reality in which we are comfortable being tyrannized. We're comfortable under tyranny. We actually advocate for it in a lot of aspects of our lives. Many of you are very, very happy when your guy wins and exacts authoritarianism and tyranny on your philosophical enemies in a political sense. But when the other side wins, you will decry the tyranny. And I was mentioning the friend of mine that ran for mayor and won here in Spring Valley. Before I got sidetracked by myself, by the way. I told him when he won, after he took the oath of office, I very distinctly and very clearly told him, I will be watching you. I will be watching you. I will be judging you. I will be critical of you. I will be critiquing you. And that's how we restore liberty in our country, people. We have to do that. We have to be willing to watch even the people that we like, even the people that we align with on a philosophical, political level. We have to be willing to watch them and critique them and call them out when they're doing something wrong. Excuse me. And that's what's missing from the left and from the Trump populists. Trump populists are not willing to call out Donald Trump. See, populism sounds great, right? Because it sounds like a popular movement. But really what populism is, what populism ultimately does, is it exacts rule by mob. Populist movements exact rule by mob. And what is democracy if not anything more than the majority rule by the mob mentality? I'm gonna say this wrong, but it's what's in my head right now. Hoppe, the libertarian philosopher, wrote, "Democracy, the god that has failed." Hey, STD, good to see you, or good for you to see me. But yeah, he in the book, the Democracy, the God that has failed, Hoppe takes on the reality that democracy is never a win. We shouldn't be looking for democracy. We should be looking for a Republican form of libertarian government. Not Republican as in the party, but Republican as in the ideals of a republic. Influenced by libertarian or classical liberal thought by people like John Locke, Lockean philosophy, Rutherfordian philosophy, Aristotelian philosophy. Democracy is simply a god that fails. Democracy is nothing more than mob rule. Populism is nothing more than popular mob rule. It's always dangerous. Populism is dangerous. Democracy is dangerous. And it always leads to statism. And that's there again, folks. I believe I'm really considering starting a book club for my channel members where, we'll read books together and then once a month get together and have a conversation about the chapters that we've read. I think it would be very good for everybody. And definitely good for me. I love that kind of challenge. It helps me grow. But we have to ask ourselves, are we here? Do we love democracy or do we love liberty and republicanism? And what have we learned over the last 5 years? And I'm afraid that many of us haven't learned anything. Not most of you watching, but I'm afraid many of us haven't learned anything. I'm afraid that many people have failed to learn any lessons since the COOF pandemic of 2020. 1 year, 5 years for Minnesota as of today, when our state was ordered to shut down and people had their liberty stripped from them in the name of safety and security. And as we were taught early on by our founding fathers, Those who would exchange liberty for safety and security will have neither. And that's absolutely 100% true. So it's not a great anniversary celebration, but I did want to talk about, right, as a freedom civil rights lawyer says, freedom is scary, deal with it. And I've said to people, my freedom doesn't end where your fear begins. I would love to hear from you guys about where you've been at in the comments section. Come back and comment after the video finishes processing what you've observed over the last 5 years. Do you think people learned anything? Do you think people have actually been changed by what they learned? I'm going to go in and take a shower and either make dinner or go out and get something to eat. I am at the lightest I have been in over 30 years. Weighed in yesterday at 191.4. I started at over 300 pounds, 5.5, almost 6 years ago, and I'm at 191.4. I do my weigh-ins in the morning. I'm doing super intense workouts for 2 hours every morning. So thank you so much to everybody that's been here. Thank you to everybody that tuned in, even for a little bit today. And thanks to all the channel supporters, to all the channel members. I cannot thank you guys enough, and be looking forward to more data coming out about that Kaneohe County Sheriff's Deputy. Go watch the full almost 2 hours of that video from him. I just put it up on Wednesday. Share that out. Share out my commentary on it. And while we're at it, I'll be doing more and also be planning for the April 25th 5-year anniversary celebration of the channel. I don't know what I'm going to do, but we're going to do something. Hopefully it's a big deal for you guys, because it's a big deal for me. I gave up a lot for doing this. So until next time, my friends, as my friend Monica made my sign that many of you can see me when I'm in studio, fight for your liberty is yours. Fight for your freedom, it belongs to you. And Sic Semper, Tyrannus.